to what Team Ghana looks like or is looking like for the championships in Budapest. Of course, this is inconclusive as the qualification period has still not ended yet. And so some names could come in, some names could be dropped. And I'm glad that both Bauer and Andrew are here and you can help me with any omissions or additions that should not be there. Benjamin Azamati could potentially qualify for the men's 100 meters. There's an asterisk on his name because he hasn't made the qualifying time yet. However, to the rankings, he could still qualify. So it's not a given that Benjamin Azamati will compete in the 100 meters in Budapest, at least not as of today. Last year, by this time, Azamati had run 9.90 seconds and had already booked his ticket to the championship. This year, Benjamin Azamati has not been able to run the qualifying time. It's a disturbing scenario for Ghana's record holder in the 100 meters. We'll get into details of what exactly has happened to him this season. James Darcy, he has qualified for the 200 meters. You heard, of course, Bauer Husseini talk about him. He ran a world lead, 92.79 seconds at the time. Of course, that world lead has been snatched away from him. So he has qualified outright for the competition. Joseph Paul Amoah has not qualified using the standards. In other words, he has not been able to run the qualification standard over the 200 meters. However, he could also still book a ticket using the ranking system. So as it stands, as far as the men are concerned, in the individual event, only James Darcy has made the qualifying time. Last year, as I indicated, by this time, Joseph Paul Amoah had run the second fastest time in Ghana's history, over 100 meters, and he had booked his place in the 200 meters as well. This season, he's not been able to do that. The relay team, of course, Ghana qualified because they made the final at Oregon last year. And the men that have been earmarked to go this season will be Benjamin Azamati, Isaac Botsio of Texas A&M, West Texas A&M, James Darcy as well. Raymond French is a locally based athlete. Edwin Gadayi as well. Joseph Paul Amoah as usual. So you see, curiously, Sean Safo Entry's name is missing. He's been a key member of that relay team for the longest time. As far as the women are concerned, well, Deborah Aqua has qualified by virtue of her bronze medal jump at the Commonwealth Games, of course, 6.94 meters in Birmingham. So she's qualified. We'll get through to what she's been up to since that qualification. Rose is the defending African champion. Her jump has not necessarily qualified her with the standards, but as area champion, there is a chance, perhaps, that she could be brought into the competition. Andrew, if you would just help me out here with this list that we've gone through in terms of who is going and who is not going. Are there some stuff that I'm missing at the moment? Is that the team that we're taking to Budapest?
I think you're pretty close, with the exception of Raymond French. French will be going with the team to France as part of the campaign, but he's not part of the 4x1 team. I believe, and CEO can correct me on this, Safwan Son should be the name on there, the other local home-based athlete in the 4x1. That's probably the only correction. I think with the others, you describe them accurately in terms of the wait until the end of the qualification period to fully confirm the team.
Let's talk about a bit more about the quality then and the weight of the athletes we are taking to the competition. Last year, going to Oregon, a lot of people were pretty pumped about the capacity of his team or the members that we had to do wonders. Azamati expectations were very high because he was running, he set the national record last year, 9.90, had never been done before. Joe Paul did a 9.94 in the 100 meters himself. And so the two of them in the individual event, even Deborah had increased her national record in the long jump going into that competition. So expectations were pretty high. This time around, we're even struggling to get them to qualify in the individual events. What has happened there?
Struggling, I don't think struggling is necessarily describes it, right? Because you can have athletes run fairly early in the season and then struggle later on, right? So it's about peaking at the right time. So let's use Joe Paul as an example. Yes, he ran 994 last year, but if you remember in Mauritius, Joe struggled, right? I think he ran at 2017 something in the 200. The way the qualification system is set up, unlike say maybe 5, 6 years ago, that automatic standard is extremely high, right? And to be honest with you, with automatic standard, yes, you run it once, but then you are going to have people who are coming in through the second route of qualification. And in this case, we are talking about the ranking system where you're using an average, the top 5 performances, average of the top 5 performances. And so if you look at that average performance, it might actually be better than somebody who may have run, one time very fast and had issues. Having said that, as CEO mentioned, right around April going into May, the times that collectively they were running, especially on those who would be on the 4x1 team, was much faster than last year, which is on average, right? And so at least on the 4x1 side, they were pegged to perform better. I think maybe later on in the conversation, we can talk about what's happened between the end of the US collegiate season and where we are right now. Ben, yes, hasn't, in terms of his season best, not as fast as last year, but there's also been some logistical issues that we can get into.
Interesting. And I would really like to show you this. And George, I would like you to indulge me here. The members of Ghana's 4x1 relay team, and I indicated the possibilities that exist there going into the World Championships last year and the times that these guys were running. 2 of the athletes on that team were running sub 10 seconds. This time around, only one of them, in fact, has done a sub 9, and even that probably was with the aid of Win. James Darcy, I think, as Matthias, has also done a Win-aided sub 10 second. But in terms of legal times, not a single one of the athletes we are taking to this World Championships in the relays is doing sub 10s. And I know that it really is not always necessarily about how fast you are. A lot of other factors play a part. But let's go through the times of these athletes for this season, starting with Isaac Botsio at West Texas A&M, the times that he's run this season in terms of his progression. And look at that. These are his last 5 races. Okay, so beginning from the bottom there, so you see May 27, 10.03, May 25, 10.27, May 12, 10.36, 10.21 as well. Earlier in the season in March, his last race was 10.33, and this was on June 8 in the 10th FASU Games. Sorry, that was in 2022, I beg your pardon. That was in 2022, I beg your pardon. So his last race was May 27, 2023, 10.03. So there is a bit of progress from Isaac Botsio, but still no sub 10 second run there. What about Benjamin Azamati, everybody's biggest hope? To say he was a big disappointment in the individual events in both Oregon and Birmingham would be understating it because expectations were very high. So he started this season with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, but he hasn't exactly delivered, has he? Because on June 4, FBK Games 10.18, Meeting de Paris June 9, 10.20, Pavonomi Games, he ran 2 races there, 10.21 and 10.19. And then his last race on July 8, he did 2 races in Barbados, 10.31 and 10.23. So no sub 10, not even a 10 flat from Benjamin Azamati, someone that was running 9.90 only 12 months ago. What has happened there? What about Joseph Paul Amo himself as well? There, he's been running 100-meter races as well. And we chose those because those matter in the relay. So May 13, 10.30 and 10.19 in the NACC New Life Invitational. USA TF Bermuda Grand Prix, May 21, 10.05. That was win aided. And then his last race on June 3, Music City Track Carnival, 10.14 and 10.24. Again, struggling. No sub-10s or not even 10 flats. And then the other one in there, James Darcy, probably everybody's biggest hope this season. He's struggling with a bit of an injury. I'm sure George will give us an update on that. He started the season with 10.20. Then he made good progress. From there to 10.10 and then 9.89 win aided, 10.04 and 10.13. Good times, but yet again, not the most impressive. Now, given this information, George, what can you say about what we should expect from this team going to these World Championships in terms of the relay performance?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's an interesting one because if you look at it from an individual stance, then and you are trying to compare that vis-a-vis with the qualifying standards for this year, then you have cause to say that they have not been able to make the kinds of times that we're expecting them to make. But if you bring last year's qualification time here, then maybe we've got about two of them who have actually qualified per the last year's standards, because that was 10.05 seconds for 100 meters. And now we are doing a 10.00 flat. So if you look at the team as a whole, on the average, I agree that they will be faster in terms of the times they're making, because I'm sure that whoever's going to be the first leg is definitely faster than the first leg we had in Oregon. The second leg may also be. So when you put the entire team together and look at the average, you can say that they are kind of fast. But I'm also more interested about where do we find these athletes? Are they in the right places at this point, which is critical in trying to assess what we can expect from them when the competition begins, which is the thing. I will just go through it. A number of them have had to deal with injuries. Most of them are getting back on. If their rehabilitation process is smooth, they can surprise us, yes. But if you go strictly to the kind of qualification, the times that we have seen, for somebody like Azamati, he's still having a little niggle there with a groin injury, currently doing his rehabs. I'm sure we'll see him for the first time after he had the injury later this weekend in Bayer Leverkusen. So we'll have an idea of where he is, and there's still more time. We'll see if he can get it. As Azamati this season actually did run a 9.99, but that was not legal. It was not a competition that was accredited by World Athletics, so it was not going to count in that one. So that's the first one. James Darcy is also a worry because he's also had an injury, and we're hoping that he can be fit enough to do it. Obviously, he was at the Diamond League meeting at a meet, and in the first 100 meters he did so well, and then he pulled up, and he's not been able to come back. But we are hoping that he can at least be fit to do 100 meters. If we are talking about 4x100 meters, of course, he's able to do one of the legs in there. So we'd also have to monitor where he's coming from. If you look at Isaac Bosio and James Darcy, they have come quite close with the 10.04 and 10.03. They have come quite close to actually getting the 10.00 flats. The only question about the two is that also once the season has ended, you are not sure about what has gone in for them in the period after the season, the normal college season ended, and where the games is going to take place. And I think it was a point that Carl was making the last time when we were on Gold Chase. He wasn't able to join us live, but when I interviewed him, we're talking about the stretches, what happens after the college season for all these students, and what really goes in, because for this year in particular, the competition is taking place in the last 2 weeks of August. That means that if you are peaked in May and in April, you have got to take a full turn in trying to get back there. And it's really difficult, as you know, in athletic standards to peak like twice in 3 weeks or peak like twice in a month. So there is a bit of a challenge there. Clearly in the air, I mean, you don't feel that kind of confidence. And I'm sure even for the athletes, they've got a bit going through their minds, coming or going into this competition. So I'm hoping that, the final window that we've got, there will be some good news in terms of good performances, and that could really put it up there. But generally, I think that expectations are down, even though on paper, they are running faster on the average. If you look at the team, I think individually there are issues to sort out. And I'm sure as we go on, we will talk about why Ghana is doing great when it comes to scholarships for athletes, but really would have to look at a bigger plan than just helping the athletes to get scholarship to the universities. There is still another plan, or there is still a grand plan that we must put in place to ensure that we are entirely delivering the athletes, because of the problems that they face even when they've gone, into the universities in the US, which has got to do with, training when the school is over, which has got to do with, fending for themselves, as it were. Sometimes it's got to do with visa issues, making it difficult for them to move here. And even for those who have turned professional, who have got, the likes of A6 helping them, they're actually dealing with high costs of having to prepare themselves, because yes, they have to engage coaches and all of that. So I'd say at the moment, it's not looking too good like the way we would have wanted it. On paper, they are doing averagely better, but I feel that we have to get them in the right places, because I think last year, by this time, the athletes were pumped up. They were really, really looking forward to the World Athletics Championships because of the issues that have happened with injuries and all the back and forths. Our top men are not, I don't think they're entirely in the right place. Hopefully they get there, but at the moment, it's fair to say that we've got a bit of work to do.
Looking good, to be honest. And Carl, this is why I like to bring you in, because, at the last championships, we were together. There was a lot of hope about the performances of our athletes, because they went into that competition running some really good times. And we seemed like we had a really decent team. When you look at this team that we're potentially taking to Budapest, what's your impression in terms of their capacity and what they can do at this competition?
Well, the first thing you want to talk about, and I think George has actually stated exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
The games, the championships are not being held at the usual time. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a vast difference between the collegiate system and when you peak, and then the championships. Now, if you take a look at those who shine or do extremely well in the collegiate system, they invariably don't do too well in the World Champs or the Olympics. First name that comes to mind is Fambule, the Liberian chap, yeah? Brilliant last season, but once the collegiate system ended in June, even though we had the championships in July, it was a struggle for him. Now you're getting it in August. It's going to be an extremely difficult struggle for these athletes. More so when the times that they've even been clocking are not necessarily the best. A few of them are carrying injuries. I would have put my money not on the sprinters, but on Debbie. But just like happened last year, and I did an interview with her and her manager, she had a major serious injury.
Still carrying?
She took it to the Commonwealth Games, and she had one good jump. The first jump of 6.94, national record gone, was in the first position until I think the second jump by
Rumi.
And then she moved from gold to silver, eventually settled with bronze. But there's a problem here.
Okay.
The athletes, have they been psyched up? I don't think so. Because many of them are thinking about, what am I going to do? If you take a look at the Diamond League and the World Athletics Continental, the step lower, tour.
Gold, silver.
How many of them are being invited? I've seen Adamati perform in just two of the Diamond Leagues. Yeah. If I'm right, the Paris one and can't remember what the other was. But the time went too good. The others haven't. So the question that I ask is, how are they going to bridge the gap? More so when now, the last Diamond League that took place on Sunday is the last one to take place until the champs are over. Then we go straight to Zurich the following Thursday and Friday. It's 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's going to be a problem to get these guys to deliver as we would want. And maybe that's where the French stuff comes in, the one that Bauer spoke about, them going off to France. But I wouldn't count my chickens there either, because there's a vast difference between training, and doing the business on the day itself. And I keep on saying that. If you look at most athletes, and it goes back to even before Andrews era, the likes of Davidson Ezinwa, the Nigerian sprinters, they were doing fantastic times in the lead up to the Olympic Games. Mary Onyali. But come to the Games, they don't deliver simply because those are one-off races. But in those days, it was 4. To win a gold, you'd have to run 4 races in the sprints, whether you like it or not. Now they've given them 3. They say that they'll do the prelims in quotes, and then the major stars come in very good. So it becomes a bit of a problem. And since many African athletes have that problem, look, the names are plenty. There's a platform you and I on, they were discussing, I think, about the way Simbine, Akani Simbine, had just beaten Fred Curley. And I put on the platform and said, that's a one-off race. Do it where you pace yourself and then deliver on the day. And then you find out that African athletes are wanting.
Alu is notorious for doing that.
Absolutely. The main thing is just get yourself to the final and peak in the final. That's what matters. And so I look at people like JP Amwa, and I'm not seeing the JP Amwa I saw last year. And I think JP Amwa is more of a 200 meters runner than a 100 meters runner.
True.
I think the same could apply to James Dadze.
True.
So it leaves us with virtually nobody really to compete in the 100. And that's why I said my eyes will be focused on Debbie. She gets one crazy jump of 7 meters. These days, athletes are not doing even more than 705, 706. Even Mlambo, Malaika. Okay? So there's hope there. But the sprints, I'd like to hold my judgment.
Thank you, Carl. You're watching Gold Chase. We're looking ahead to Budapest 2023, Ghana's participation at the World Athletics Championship. There's still a lot to come in the conversation. Now, in the last 10 years, I dare say, Ghana has secured over 100 scholarships for athletes into US collegiate systems. And yet, in that number, only 2 of them have managed to secure professional contracts. And even those 2 only happened last year and this year, Benjamin Azapati and Joe Paul Amwa. What is wrong? Is that a system that we should continue? Or it's perhaps, many people would argue, it's a bit of a lazy approach towards talent development. After all, we look at some of the top performers from the African continent, not a single one of them came from the US collegiate system. Omanyala, Kenyan trained, Talu, Ivorian trained, every single one of them is coming out of the continent. Simbine from South Africa. We have sent athletes and athletes and athletes to the US for the longest time. Over 100 of them in the last 10 years. And yet, it's simply not working. In that period, that system has not produced a single athlete. We'll get into the bottlenecks of what exactly the issues are. Is it a case that we're not taking full advantage of that system? Or it's just a system that is not carved for success from our level? And like Carl insinuated, perhaps it's not a system that is built to favor African athletes. It's a conversation we'll be having going forward. We've still got a couple of other presentations to make for you about where Ghana should be investing its resources in terms of the track and field, which events favor our natural being. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Gold Chase, a special build-up program to the World Athletics Championships in Budapest, starting on August 19. We're taking the PM Express slot. And PM Express, of course, is sponsored by Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them ourselves. Syntex Tank is strong, it's tough. Alomu Bitters experience greatness in every moment. Ghana is commissioned as well. Let me tell you a bit more about Syntex Tank. No matter your water needs, Syntex Tank has it all. They were the first, of course, to introduce a double-layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex Tank is first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana. We now introduce to you the customer specs order, which lets you order any color and size of your preference. So Syntex Tank gives you the longest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank in Ghana gives you. So that's pretty special. So whatever your water consumption size or project or demand, just choose Syntex Tank. We have agents nationwide. You can call them 0244-335-168 or shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex Tank, it's strong, it's tough. And Cherry Tree Properties. Desires are wishes, of course. Beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is everything. Thinking about buying a new home? Talk to those who build with passion. Sloane Square is a new gated community development at Sakumono, developed by Cherry Tree Properties, a one-of-a-kind, well-planned luxury you've never experienced. Just contact them on 0553 662 366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class, of course. Now, all of Ghana's hopes, of course, are in the 4x1 relay team. And rightly so, because this team, all they have done since 2019 in that African Games is put smiles on the faces of Ghanaians. They've done it over and over and over. And the hopes are that they will do it again this year. We put together a very short report about their progress from that 2019 championships in Rabat up till now. 5 disqualifications in their last 10 races. That is crazy. Andrew, how do we plan on fixing this? Because, I mean, those disqualifications, especially the last one, was pretty hurtful. I spoke to some of the athletes after that, Azamati in particular. He was uncontrollable. And I'm talking about the disqualification in Birmingham. Why does this keep happening? And obviously, you're coaching the team this time around. How do you ensure they get that baton around in safety? Because it looks like critically that is what Ghana needs to be doing.
Often, in fairness, though, I think we put a little too much of the responsibility on the athletes. Yes, they are the ones running, but also as a country, are we willing to invest the amount of time it takes, the amount of resources it takes to get them together for prolonged periods of time, right? To work out the kinks. After all, the 4x1 is a very technical race. Having said that, there's also a bit of luck that goes with running the relay. And if it was just based on, let me use the U.S. men for as an example, right? The number of times that they have failed to say advance or haven't had issues with the baton. Overall, I think these guys have done extremely well, given how limited a time they often have to put themselves together. For example, if you think about Silesia, right? Literally, they are practicing just as they get there. What happened in Birmingham in terms of that disqualification, which had to do with an administrative error, is something that shouldn't have happened and shouldn't happen again. I think the association is put in additional measures and additional oversight to just make sure that something like that doesn't happen, because that team was really primed to knock the ball out of the park per se. So with regards to the World Championships coming up, France is obviously going to be a good thing for us, as CEO mentioned a little earlier, and I think George also alluded to a bit, because there we get a chance for them to get together, practice a little bit, and the composition of the team is also going to be a little bit different, right? And so just making sure that we have all that down, France will give us a good chance to practice and get that nailed down. Coach Elom will be primarily responsible for the sprinters and working with me on that. So we're going to try our best, working with what we have, and move forward from there.
Okay, and Andrew, I know that you're on the road, so I'm going to ask you a follow-up question so that we can let you go and focus on your trip. We were talking about why Ghana has struggled to produce professional athletes, and by professional I mean those who have secured contracts and are using track and field as primary source of income. In the last 10 years, the GAA has done enormous work in terms of trying to secure scholarships for athletes to go abroad into the US collegiate system. Individuals as well have contributed their own quota in trying to get athletes to the US collegiate system. And that, for many people, initially was great success. That's what produced the likes of Azamati and Joseph Paul Abwa, Janet Amponsa. But however, those are or can only be deemed as average level of success. What is preventing us from turning all these potential that we're sending to US schools to becoming top athletes? While other countries, for example, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, even Nigeria, to some extent Kenya, are producing all of their world beaters in their countries. We have resorted to, of course, this US collegiate system and giving all these athletes scholarships. But in terms of the athletic side of things, it's almost as if after college, all of them are done and they don't go on to the next level. What is the issue there? Because for 10 years, that system hasn't been able to produce any athlete that has become a world beater, at least not one that has medal at any world championship or the Olympic Games. There has to be a problem there. What's going on with that?
I don't look at it as a problem. In fact, experts in athletics will tell you that the US system is basically the farming ground when it comes to development of athletes. And by the way, can you guys still hear me? Because I know with the traveling, maybe I may be coming in and out. Sorry, Fent, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so coming back to that, so there were two things, and I think Professor Dudu has articulated this when he first came in, which is, how do you develop athletes post-secondary school, right? We can do so locally, and you've talked about some other examples. You've talked about Kenya, you've talked about South Africa, you've talked about Botswana, right?
Yes,
but
Côte
all
d'Ivoire.
of that requires quite a bit of investment in terms of resources. And that's the thing that we often don't reflect on, how much it takes to develop each athlete to the next level. And when I say the next level, I'm talking about the global level, right? Being able to qualify for world championships, Olympic Games, say the Commonwealth Games. And it takes a lot of money, right? So what we were faced with, and I think this is the choice that clearly articulated. Well, okay, we're going to see what we can do on the local level. And one of the things that was done there was to increase the number of competitions, which really is also a prerequisite. But for those who were good enough academically, could enter the US system, to shift them then to the US system, right? Because if you think about it, assuming that they are eligible for 4 years, for 4 years, somebody else is bearing the cost of that development. Yes, they are competing for their school, schools need them, and also needs them, right? And I think that has been extremely successful for us. But there is a bottleneck, which we knew, and it's an ongoing problem. It was an ongoing problem before my time. It was an ongoing problem my time. And we are still seeing that, which is the transition after the collegiate system, right? It is not easy to secure a contract. So I think when we first engaged on this question of turning professional, being professional, I think one of the questions I asked was, well, how are we defining it? I think from the GA perspective and from Ghana's perspective, what is most important is the performance level, right? And whether there's a way to sustain the support for that athlete such that they can continue to produce. Right now, I think we have 2 athletes who are on contract. I know there were a couple of others where there were discussions. We'll see where that goes on there. I'm not privy to the details on that. So I don't deem it a failure per se in terms of not getting more professionals. I think what's more important is whether as a country we can support these athletes post their collegiate careers, right? Because the alternative is to say that, okay, well, you run fast enough or figure out how you're going to run fast enough, become a professional, and then hopefully Ghana, reaps some reward from that. As George mentioned, being a professional is also not easy because a lot of the things that we may take for granted at the collegiate level is gone. Now you are responsible for your own health insurance, right? Yeah. You are responsible for your entire upkeep, paying coaches, physios, right? And all those things add up. It's actually a significant cost that is hidden when they are in the collegiate system, but then when they transition to the professional level, it also becomes a problem. And so for me, I would like us to focus, perhaps maybe redirect that question as to how can we sustain or get them to the level where they are able to compete and do really well at the global stage. The professional way would be one way to go, assuming they're running fast enough to secure a contract.
Yeah.
But I also think as a country, we need to perhaps invest a little bit more.
Okay, that's fair enough. Thank you very much, Andrew, that you could make time to join. So
let me just add.
Yes.
Let me just add a little bit to what Prof. Andrew has just said.
Yes.
If you compare Ghana to Nigeria or to Kenya or to South Africa, the comparison has a bit of challenge.
Okay.
I can give you an example like Blessing Kogbare. When Blessing completed school in US, she was given $120,000 to prepare to transit from the collegiate sport to professional sports. If you look at countries like Australia,
by who?
UK,
by who? By the Nigerian government?
Can testify to that. Yes. Yes, by the Delta State government.
Okay.
The Delta State gave $120,000. In South Africa or in Kenya, there are a number of Kenyan athletes in the US which are also doing well. In Côte d'Ivoire, the young lady was training in a high performance center in Senegal before she moved to Paris, before she even came down to train in Côte d'Ivoire with the same coach. But in the Ghana situation, our athletes, after the schooling, is the state willing to support them to transit from the student sports, from the student athletes to the professional athletes?
So you're saying that the state is not complementing your efforts?
In Canada, yes. When you go to Australia and UK and Canada, they have a program that they give, financial they give to the athletes after each year performance. Okay. When you finish the World Championship or you finish an Olympic Games, those who have got to final or those who got medals, they've got the number of men that are going to give them to the next Olympic Games. Those who got to final, they also got a certain amount they're going to give them to the next Olympic Games. And those who have potential, they're also being supported by the state. The problem that we have in Ghana is that when they go to the school prepared them to pick around May or first week in June. And we can't blame them for that because the school are paying for them to come around for them. The school are not going to prepare them to pick in August or at the end of July. They prepare. That's why Azamati always have that time between April and May. All of them have time between April and May. It is left within Ghana for also to have resources to prepare them to also pick after July or even in August. Look at when we're going to World Championship, even though Azamati had 9.90 and Joe had 9.94, but before they got to Eugene, they were not doing that. They were not that fast again. Because they abandoned the school and were not able, or the state were not able to give them the support to continue training, to be able to maintain or even sustain their form. But this year, the athletes are doing well, even though they are not running the 999. But averagely, that's what I indicated, that averagely, they are doing well when we combine them as a team. If we were to go back to Eugene, the qualifying standard, we are getting three of them qualifying by their current performance.
Yeah.
You see, is what I'm driving at. So in all, even if we have not taken this athlete to US, you could have just imagined what the alternative could have been.
True.
For example, Barnabas Aga still at UDS. He was faster than James Dazi. He was faster than Samini. He was faster than Bosio. But these guys left to US, they are now faster. Much faster than Barnabas Aga, who is still in Ghana here. We have also realized that we are challenged in terms of technical handlers, coaches. We also try to develop the coaches now. That's now we are now having the 45 people running 45 in Ghana here. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, back to the issue of state support, right? When we compare some of our support these other African countries,
I think, and
of the year they actually budget like a fixed amount of money. Yeah,
No, go ahead.
Sorry, a fixed amount of money coming in. Like for example, Botswana.
Yeah.
Botswana gets the Botswana Federation.
Yes, Andrew, just go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. With regards to the athletes and performances, and see you just a slight correction there, because I think that yes, they are doing well when
Okay, I think Andrew is breaking up a little bit, so we'll have to truncate that. Apologies, we'll try and see. Andrew is trying to make a point about government investment in the sport, and Bauer made a very good point about the state complementing the efforts of the GAA. They send those athletes abroad, their times obviously improve, and you can tell that the system somehow is adding value to the athletes. But what's the state's own role in taking them from collegiate athletes to the next level? And for me, I think it's a significant conversation to be had. And Bauer's example about Blessing Okogbare is brilliant, because after the collegiate system in the US, the state saw the potential, gave her money to stay there and train and enter competitions and go to high performance centers from across Europe. Well, the results are there for everybody to see. He became a world beater. We will take a short break again. When we come back, we have a presentation for you. And then I'll go to my two journalists, especially Carl. I'm interested in his opinion of what it is that we did in the 90s for the likes of Vida Enim, Margaret Simpson, and the high-performance centers they were training at in Mauritius. They didn't go to the collegiate system, and they were not running sub-10s or jumping 7 meters, but they were constantly among the creme de la creme of world athletics. How did we do that? Is that a system we should get back to? You're watching Gold Chase here on the JoyNews channel. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. This is Gold Chase, build up to the World Championships in Budapest in 2023. It's athletics. The competition starts on August 19. Will run till August 27. Ghana is sending a group of athletes, 4x100 meter relay team, 100 meters, 200 meters, long jump women, high jump women potentially to this competition. We've not won a medal at this competition since 2005, when Margaret Simpson won the bronze in the heptathlon women, and Ignatius Gazer won the silver in the men's long jump. How can we win the medal this time around, and why have we struggled? That's what the conversation has been on here. We've taken over the PM Express slot, of course, which is sponsored by Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we're going to occupy them ourselves. Syntex Tank is strong, it's tough, and Alomo Bitters experience greatness in every moment, as well as the Ghana AIDS Commission. All right. And you say, whatever your water needs are, Syntex has you covered. They've got tanks with double layers, and now you can get and design your own tank. Get as many layers as you want, and of course, you can get as many colors as you want. You can order it in whichever color you want and whichever size you want. Okay, and they also give you 7-year warranty. Nobody else does that. Whatever your needs are, Syntex Tank can provide them. They have agents nationwide. You can call them 0244-335-168 or shop online, syntexgh.com. Syntex Tank, a strong, a tough. Also, Cherry Tree Properties, they're saying that desires are wishes, beauty is a promise of happiness, but passion is everything. If you're thinking about buying a new home, talk to those who build with passion. Sloan Square is their newest property. It's a gated community development at Sakumono, developed by Cherry Tree Properties, a one-of-a-kind, world-planned luxury you've never experienced. You can contact them 0553-662-366. Cherry Tree Properties, sophistication and class. All right, well, welcome back. Michelle Kwenu of the Joy Sports Desk is here with a bit of a presentation on and a question as to whether or not perhaps we have been investing in the wrong area when it comes to track and field. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I'm glad to have you. You're looking nice. So, what do you have? What do you have over there?
So we want to find out where Ghana can benefit, or where Ghana can create a niche at the world level. But to first understand that, you have to understand where niches have already been created.
Yes.
So here we have a presentation on which niches have been created. We're going to start with the Eastern African countries, specifically Kenya, Ethiopia, Uganda, and those guys who have dominated in the long distance events. From 2013, we are using a time gap of 2013 to 2022 for this. And from 2013 to 2022 in Oregon last year, there were a total of 72 medals we won in the long distance events. Here you can see the Eastern African men had 47, 147 of those 72, whilst the rest of the world won just 28. This is the breakdown from 2013. They won 10, 10, dropped to 9, 10, we dropped to 8, and then the story is the same for their women. Their women also won 47 of those 72 medals from 2013 up to 2022, whilst the rest of the world also won 28.
Okay.
Then, so this is the breakdown for the women. Then we are going to look at the sprint events.
Okay.
100 meters, 200 meters, and let's add the 400 meters, which are dominated by USA and Jamaica. And from that period, we are looking at 45 medals which have been won in the sprints from 2013 to 2022. US and Jamaica have won 27 of those medals, while the rest of the world has won 18. And this is the breakdown for US and Jamaica. For every world, in 2013, the 100 meters was dominated by US and Jamaica, all right, so let's see somehow 2015 where we had some Canada and other Great Britain come in there. But it's US and Jamaica who are dominating for the men and then also for the women. Okay. The women have 21, slightly low as compared to the men, but you can see as compared to the rest of the world, them having 21, just 2 countries, that shows the dominance. And we are adding the 4x100 meter relay. For the 4x100 meter relay, there are 15 medals from 2013 to 2022. And from those 15, we can see USA
and Canada alone 6.
Yeah, so USA and Jamaica have appeared there about like 6 times from those.
They've won it 6 times.
Yes.
Those 2 countries alone.
Yeah, alone have won.
The rest of the
times.
world combined.
9. For the women, it's 5 to 10. So we ask the question, where can Ghana find the dominance? Obviously, at the championships, no African has won the 100-meter events. But from 1999 to now, we've seen maybe some impressive performances from Ghana's team. So this is a sub-10 breakdown for Ghana. 1999, Leo Mouse was 9.98. It took a very long time, up to 2005, before we could have another sub-10 performance, which came from Aziz Zakari. But from then, we had to wait 2005 to 2021, a very long time, before we got Benjamin Azamati breaking Leo Mouse 9.98 by running 9.97, and then Azamati again running 9.90. Then right after Azamati ran 9.90 in March 2022, in April 2022, just a month later, we had Joseph Paul Ama running 9.94 seconds, which is now the second fastest time in Ghana's history. Then May 2022, Benjamin Azamati again with 9.96. So the story continues just like that. But in Oregon, the times were not exactly encouraging, where we had Azamati ran 10.18 and Joseph Paul Ama ran 10.22. This is what I call Ghana's class of 2023. The athletes who have been moved from Ghana to USC, the story we're talking about, from November 2022 to January 2023. We had Isaac Botiu, James Dadzi, and Abdul Rashid Saminu. The qualification time for this year's championship is at 10.0 flat. So how have Ghana's athletes fared, the class of 2023? Isaac Botiu ran at 10.03, which went aided. Then ran at 10.27. Then we had James Dadzi, 9.89, but also went aided, so illegal.
Count.
Yeah, and we have a 10.04 again after that 9.89, and Abdul Rashid Saminu has run at 10.04. We can see for the times which are not illegal, for James and Abdul, they are very close, 0.04 seconds off the qualification mark. Yeah. So maybe this is where Ghana can, exert a bit of dominance if you are going to invest correctly, because you've seen the scale from 20 to 21 up to now. We are having at least consistent numbers getting close to that sub-10 area. Yeah. And that is where we can dominate. If you look at the 4x100 meter men, their story is very, let's say it's a very fairy tale story, which has some very soft. And then 2018, 38.30 seconds. 2019 World Athletics Championship, 38.24 seconds. They broke the national meter record twice in a space of just like 2 years. But right before that, the World Relays, they ran 39.11 seconds. They were third in the final, but they were disqualified. That first disqualification. Then in Tokyo, they ran 38.08 seconds to break the national record. Then in 2022, Oregon, they ran 38.07 seconds. And in Birmingham, 39.05 seconds. They got to the final, but as usual, the story again of another disqualification. So if we get our acts right, get everything right on the track and also in the offices, hopefully we can start medaling, medaling definitely at the championships.
Thank you very much for that. And Carl, obviously George, this is a question I want to ask both of you. Clearly, the guys are running faster now, but they're not getting in and getting the medals. The likes of Aziz and Vida, Enim and co were not running this fast, and they were winning medals. How do you explain that? Well, the rest of the world has gotten faster.
I think you need to look at certain things. The tracks play a role.
Okay.
The weather at the time in which the events are being run. And that's why I'm not... Look, let me go out and prophesy that I doubt whether there will be a world record in this.
In Budapest?
In Budapest, because take a look at the time of the year and take a look at the average temperature there. Doesn't work out. And for the sprints in particular, where they need quite warm weather and very, very fast tracks, I'm not too sure whether we'll see. But to answer your question, people are running faster, yeah. But have we done the maths to see how fast people are running vis-a-vis their rivals? Mm. If you take a look at Ghana's history, with the lone exception, and you put that in your introduction, of Margaret Simpson and Geyser, we haven't come anywhere near winning medals
at the
World Championships
ever,
or Olympics.
True.
Even when Alice Anum was winning Commonwealth Games, 100 and 200 meters, she gets to the Olympics. This was 72. She got sixth behind Renata Stecker of the then GDR. And we all know what the GDR, of course, was doing. So, if we say people are running faster, yes, they may be running faster. Yes, because diets are better. Yes, because tracks are better. Yes, because all these things come in. But vis-a-vis what the others are running, that's what we should be comparing it. And I don't think that running faster now, we are doing the sort of things that the others are doing. If you take a look at Oregon,
yeah,
Sydney McLaughlin-Levone smashed. She absolutely obliterated the world record.
Yeah.
There were extremely fast times in the men's 400 meters. And I think Duplantis broke the world record again for the pole vault.
Yep.
But take a look at the 100. What was the time? 9.86. One of the slowest
winning times.
Yeah. I mean, the last time I can remember somebody doing that was Carl Lewis in 1991. Oh, thank you. It was this St. Kitts and Nevis athlete, Kim Collins, 10.07 or 10.03 in the Paris World Championship. So you can see that the track there in Oregon tried a bit, but the weather was the key thing there. It was warm and was good for sprinters and not for long distance runners. At the same time, in Budapest, you're going to have a situation that's different. And you're talking about, on the average, 10, 11, 12 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. Cold. Relatively cold.
Mm-hmm. You're going to have to warm up. They'll be eager to get in and get out. And maybe World Athletics now needs to look at it and get it fixed to July. You have it there. Every
the
time
pick-off summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the way the World Cup does. They only made an exception for Qatar because we all know money went around.
Of course. I mean, George, Mitch mentioned the class of 2023, and that's a group that excites you, isn't it? Because it almost looks like, and it bothers me to say this, that we might have to start looking beyond the relay crop of athletes that have given us a lot of hope and a lot of dreams, and that we have to start looking at the future. When you look at the class of 2023, how much potential really is in there?
I think they've got a potential as any, really. And in the last few years, we've had athletes that have shown that they've got the potential. The big question mark is always, whether we're willing to put in that investment to ensure that they get to the levels where we want them. When Carl was speaking, I just cast my mind back. And anyway, for those of you who are watching, it's always fun to watch athletics with Carl. He's a comforting guy. He has been comforting me sometimes when I'm heartbroken on a number of occasions.
Yeah.
I had another look again at the 1,500 meters. Jake Whitman, Great Britain, gold. Ingebrigtsen, silver. Mohamed Katay of Spain, bronze. 1,500 meters. Where would this normally be? Where would this normally be if we're going by Mish's charts? It's probably supposed, it's long, it's what? Semi-long distance. Distance is supposed to be like Kenya or Ethiopia. I'm just trying to say that people are reinventing the wheel get into areas where they were not previously good. And it should tell you why we have been left so far behind. Having potential these days in athletics is just, it's great to have potential. There are a lot of potential.
It's like having potential in anything.
If you watch the Youth Olympics, a lot of potential. If you watch the under 18s, a lot of potentials. Under 19s, a lot of potentials. All these youth competitions. But it's up to the government, it's up to the key stakeholders to ensure that you are making the potential become something great. And that's where we are lost. That's where we are lost. Because it's great that we can see this wonderful improvement, but what are we putting in? The US system is great, but it doesn't just stand on its own. It needs a support. It needs an investment. It needs a plan. It needs a structure. So just like we like doing this thing, we always want to do the shortcuts, come around when it's a competition and start asking so much of the athletes. We have to go back and begin to build. So I'm happy with that initiative by Elom, where he's doing the Kids Olympics. It's a place to start. But what are the rest of the building blocks? How are we going? And after the GAA have put up the plan, where is the money to support? Government must be involved. Because I don't know where we came up with this. Football is the passion of the nation. It's always the passion of the nation. I think that other sports have led before. We have just thrown it away and left it there. So we are going to see a lot of things change even as we go. And if we don't do better, all these stats, even though they favor us, because yes, the black man is fast. That's why all the sprints is always won by a black man from Jamaica or the US.
Are you fast, George?
I'm fast.
Excuse me, sorry, forgive me.
Yeah, of course. So for me, I'm happy with all that is going on. But if we won't invest, it's very difficult. It's sad that our top athletes have to think about other things like visas, think about how much money they have to get, how to take care of themselves, where to work, other than thinking about how well to improve themselves on it. It's difficult. Even when an athlete who has sponsorship is injured, sometimes you have to go to the physio, let's say 30 times or 20 times. Do you know how much that will cost? And that's where relatively somebody, like Tibogo will be able to handle that because he is there. But even those who are training in Botswana and in the local, let me say their local countries, let's say local Africa, they have a lot of instructors outside who are constantly sending them the plan for the day, the plan for rehearsal, so the local coaches take them through. They're still paying, even though they are there, they're still paying. So the word is investment. And if we're not ready to invest, ladies and gentlemen, then we have to just wait.
We have to forget about doing the sport. But just in about 30 seconds, what message do you have for all Ghanaians that will be watching these athletes with hopes in our hearts and desirous of a medal in Budapest? Okay, I think Bao is off. Bao, I think you've muted yourself. If you can just unmute and we try and wrap it up. Bao, can you hear me?
He's trying to unmute.
Okay. Bao is just trying to unmute, but we don't have a lot of time. Bao, did you hear my question?
Yes, I asked whether Ghana should be expecting a medal or something from
yes,
our
briefly.
Everybody hopes that the athletes will do well, and my prayer is just what George has said. We need more investment into these athletes. Nowadays, potentials alone doesn't make an athlete a great athlete. We need to polish them, and for their performance, let's just pray that we get to Budapest without injuries. But if the injuries are going to persist, then we need to lessen our expectation of these athletes.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Bao Fuseni, CEO of Ghana Athletics. Thank you that you could join us. George Adder Jr. of the BBC joining us from London. Also, of course, Andrew always joined us all the way from his drive to Andrew. Where are you going? He's going to Andrew is going somewhere with his family. But thank you so much, all of you. It was a lovely conversation, and of course, my very good friend, senior and brother Carl Tufor. Thank you, Carl. Hopefully, we'll see each other in Budapest again, and every day you hand me $20. It's been lovely coming your way with another episode of Gold Chase. My name is Fentuo Tahiru Fentuo. Do enjoy your evening.